So, hello everybody. Let's start with a brief introductions. My name is Neha Anushka. I am a senior development manager at IBM. Of course, I work on Ceph. I lead projects like Rados, cruising, telemetry, etc. In the Ceph upstream community, I am also a member of the Ceph Executive Council, responsible for the upstream projects activities. With that, I'm here to present the keynote, which is about the scale of Ceph. And I have to say it's a very proud moment for me. I'm not just saying it for the heck of saying it. There are a couple of reasons for it. One, when we moved to IBM, when Ceph moved to IBM in 2023, I was local to Silicon Valley and Bay Area. And this location was always iconic to me. It was a dream to have a Ceph day here. And it took 2 years, but I'm glad that we finally are having an event here, and I'm glad that we could, get all of you here. So that's one. Two, a bit of trivia. People who do not know, Ceph wasn't born too far from here. It's like half hour from here is where Ceph was born. UC Santa Cruz, that's where Sage Weil was doing his PhD, and Ceph was part of his PhD project and dissertation. So I'm also happy that one of the professors who actually worked with Sage, Carlos, and here. I'm glad I could drag him here because he needed to be part of this iconic event. So these are the two main reasons I'm very, very proud, and I'm glad that we are having an event here. And hopefully this is the first, and we continue to have one every year.
If we get good feedback.
I'll be back home again, okay? So it can be nice. We have nice pastries and stuff, we do all the bribing you want. And then drinks here.
Yeah.
All right, let's get serious now. Where do we stand? So Ceph has been a growing project, as you know. It's been like, if people count it in 17, 20 years of Ceph, starting from like a small data project to now being used by enterprises. We have more than 1,400 contributors, and these are developers writing code, contributing tests, contributing documentation. We have more than 700,000 lines of code that have been contributed. I'm sure this is increasing day by day, and as we speak. And we have more than 150K plus overall commits. So this is huge. I mean, it speaks for a healthy, growing project, and there's much more to come. So this is just, what we did great, and we're going to finish all the activities very soon. So we start getting creative about like how do we start naming our releases very soon. So that's a good problem to have. All right, in terms of release schedule, as we've been doing this for almost 17 years now that we've been supporting 2 releases. So N-2 is what we support. Currently, we have Wincy, which has just gone end of life. So our active releases are Reef and Squid. We are working very hard on the Tentacle release, which is full of features, and that's what the rest of the slides today are going to be about, which is anticipated to come out in the second half of 2025. But in general, there is support for Squid, which is a very strong release so far. General feedback about Squid has been positive. There's no major issues, so I recommend users to upgrade. All right, so I think Vincent touched upon how great Cephalocon 2024 was. I think it was one of the best we've ever done. Some amazing location. In Switzerland, of course, amazing place, and great audience, great support from the community, a lot of developer presence, user presence. So I think it was one of the best events, and you can see how cool that location was. You can just see that picture in the top. I know some faces who were there and who experienced it, but who haven't, you should at least go take a look at the pictures. That we are growing in terms of footprint. We talked about telemetry. So just by looking at telemetry, we are at 1.7 exabytes of storage in the community, and this is only users who have opted into telemetry. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more presence of Ceph across the world. In terms of releases, as I said, Squid is going strong. Tentacle is the 20th release that's going to come out this year. So very excited about it. It's in their phase. Beyond that, we have multiple ways in which we are encouraging community engagement. We have an initiative called the Ceph User Council. The idea is to capture user feedback by means of surveys, and we engage with the community in terms of user-led meetings, and we're doing virtual stuff so that people who cannot make it to forums like this can still participate. And Slack, I think our Slack footprint is also growing a lot more. We've entirely, or like mostly, switched from IRC to Slack. So a lot of active discussions and stuff are going on. So if you're not part of the Slack channel, you should join it. Beyond that, we continue to participate in things like Google Summer of Code, Outreach, and Software. So we continue to encourage new developers to participate in the Ceph project. So those are project milestones, these are performance records. So we also broke some records last year, and thanks to Mark Nelson, whose numbers I'm presenting here, is that we reached 1 terabyte per second in terms of performance with our latest release. And there's a lot of hard work that was put into the benchmarking and also the tuning to get us there. So if you are interested in the whole report, we also have a Ceph.io post. But I think it's a milestone that's worth sharing and celebrating, so I wanted to call it out here. So this is kudos to all the developers and the community for getting us here. And some community updates in terms of the foundation and events. So we did a restructure of our Ceph Foundation last year. We have a new structure in terms of diamond, platinum, gold, and silver members. So we have Bloomberg, IBM, 45 Drives, who are now diamond members. And we also very recently welcomed, we have presence, yay, DigitalOcean will join us very recently as silver members. So welcome, and I encourage other users to also please join the community, join the foundation, and make a difference in terms of a little difference that you can make in terms of growing this community. Okay, in terms of events, I think we are going very, very strong. We had a very successful Ceph Day India. We had one last year, which was very successful, which is why we had a lot of motivation to do another one. This was an IBM and Plyso event, and it was very, very successful in January. We are, of course, having this event that is, of course, going to be successful, right? We get the feedback in the end, right? But we have Ceph Day London coming up in June. So if you're in the area, or if you just want to go visit London, you should submit a talk. The CFP is open. We also have Ceph Day Berlin that's been announced. It's going to be a 2-day event. It's going to be bigger, and we're expecting more participation from the EU community there. In terms of other events that we don't have dates, but are being planned are New York and Seattle. The next big thing is going to be Ceph.con 2025. I'm not going to reveal anything about it. It's being planned. That's all. All right, let's now come to really a lot of murmurs and discussions happen about like, okay, Ceph is good, going strong, but what does the Ceph project want to achieve in the future? What is the strategic vision? What are the developers working on? And I think I want to answer that question by means of like the 4 technical focus areas. The 4 areas that you are going to see here, and the rest of the presentations will talk about specifics of each component that's making improvements in each of these directions. So there's going to be focus on consistent performance at scale. So performance, we talked about performance a little bit earlier, but we have been wanting to improve our performance more at scale and also consistent in terms of P90, P99 in areas where it's not steady state. Those are the areas we want to improve our performance, and there's a lot of work going on there. So I'll talk a little bit about this later in slides. Ease of use. So usability has been our focus since a few years now, but that's an area that we don't want to miss out on. We want to continue to improve. There's a lot of work going on in Ceph ADM, in the dashboard, and also in components to make things easier in general and more intuitive. So we'll hear more about it later in the slides. Beyond that, there is expanded protocol support and use cases. We know that Ceph being software-defined storage, and there's so much freedom to do stuff with it. People want to use different protocols, and in terms of expanded use cases, we want to add support for things like SMB, NFS, and things like that, so that people are able to serve their use case more easily. So that's another focus area, and that's going to continue to be the focus area for the next few years. And finally, storage efficiency, TCO, that's everybody's pet peeve. Everybody wants to save money, and we also want to help you with that. So we want to make sure that at every layer we're thinking about efficiency. We're trying to save cost wherever possible. So these are the four focus areas for the project. And in general, collaboratively, I think if we are able to make progress in these four directions, we are going to succeed much, much more as a storage solution. Very well.
Workshop only goes to 7?
It's testing me now. I was much low. Can I just?
Yeah, that worked.
What? Okay.
It just needed me to sit here.
Yeah, you need to mind these. All right. So today it's going to be a sneak peek about features that are coming out in technical in various areas, and you heard the focus areas. So you kind of find a theme around things that I'm going to talk about later in the slides. Major improvement that is coming in technical for Rails is going to be erasure coding. Erasure coding has been strong for object workloads forever, but we have not been as performant and efficient in terms of TCO for block and file use cases. And that's what we want to change. So we have things like easy partial stripe reads, partial stripe writes that are going to help us save much more bandwidth in terms of network bandwidth and get our performance to as close as possible to replication, and therefore help our users achieve lower TCO even with EC and block and file workloads. So there are tons of improvements. So keep an eye on some of the presentations that will come up later in the year with details of all the features that are finally landed. Beyond that, OMAP listing performance has been a bit of a pain for us, and we've acknowledged it, and we've made improvements in the area because RGW for RGW workloads, bucket listing is a very common use case, and a lot of users have made it known that we had bottlenecks. So we've had 5x performance improvements in this area, and we hope to release this feature in technical. The code is already merged, so we're just working on performance testing and stuff as well. Beyond that, more usability stuff in terms of scrub, tuning deep scrub and scrub has always been a challenge. In fact, I was just talking to somebody yesterday, and they were a little, perplexed themselves. So we want to make this easier by default. So there are 4 changes that are going in to reduce the number of parameters that users need to know to be able to tune stuff and be able to get their scrub parameters going fine in the scale that they're operating in. Ceph Manager robustness, there's going to be a ton of improvements here. Essentially, Ceph Manager is strong, but it needs to be more robust at scale. There are things like better module loading sequence, things like better performance counters that can help us debug the Ceph Manager more easily. This kind of stuff is getting added in Keynote. Beyond that, there are cool features like availability score over time. This is something new. So there's no way currently to look at how available a Ceph cluster has been over time. And we want to get users a way to be able to have a rough idea about it. So this can be a tech review kind of thing that we're going to include in technical, and we're going to refine this feature over time. And finally, we have stretch cluster ability in Ceph for a long time. We also added the ability to do Rails general purpose stretched configurations. In technical, we are going to add the ability to unstretch a cluster so that if users, for whatever reason, go into stretch mode and decide to come back, they should be able to do that. So that's the bottleneck that we are going to fix in technical. Tons of performance improvements in the store as well. The ones that are most interesting are around compression, because that again aligns with our TCO. So compression refinements are being made so that compression is more tunable. There's better compression ratios and lower CPU utilization. There are performance improvements in terms of new wall implementation, a new risk allocator as well. And tons of stuff for more visibility in terms of adding health warnings for highly fragmented OSDs. And again, in terms of TCO, there's work ongoing to do object content recompression and defragmentation during scrubbing, which is going to make life easier for like online efficiency in general. So this is a very exciting piece of work, so keep an eye out for this as well. All right, everybody wants to know what's happening with Crimson, and I'm going to tell you what's happening with Crimson. So Crimson, we did a tech review for replicated backends with the RBD in the last release. It's great. And in the current release, there's more focus on getting C-Store stabilized as the backend. So we're trying to make C-Store the default for our test suites. There's still work to be done, but that's ongoing and groundwork has started. We are trying to, improve performance. We are trying to identify bottlenecks that currently needs implementation and fix the gaps wherever, because it's all, Crimson is all about measuring and fixing bottlenecks that we see. And it's also about filling feature gaps. So there's also work going on in adding things like support for the initial support for Scrub, but complete support for Scrub, things like PG spreading, be able to increase the number of PGs in your cluster. EC, that's another big thing that's coming, hopefully in Tentacle. It might spill to you, but you'll see we're hopeful to get EC support for Crimson, which will allow more RGW users to play with Crimson as well. And finally, there's going to be initial support for QoS, which is currently lacking for Crimson. Similar story for C-Store. Lots of focus on performance profiling and optimization and filling gaps in terms of feature work. Like things like clone range support is being added, and there's going to be more efficient device tiering and random block management support being added as well for tech. All right, so all the object users can now pay attention if they weren't paying attention so far. There's tons of stuff that's going on in the RGW area. There's going to be a presentation by Kyle later on. It's going to cover some of the areas, but in general, there's S3 additional checksum feature work that's getting added along with get attribute support. We already had a D3N cache in RGW, but now we have an MVP for D4N data cache, which is a distributed write-back cache. And this is particularly interesting because this is in collaboration with a few universities, Boston University, Northeastern University, and Massachusetts Open Cloud. So, we continue to increase our participation with students and researchers and things like that. Beyond that, there's more performance stuff in terms of in-order bucket index sharding. So that's something that's going to help with listing performance. And there's more work going on in terms of performance improvements for bucket resharding and multi. All right. There you go. Third time lucky. There's, again, I'm not going to go to the details of this. Tons of other stuff going on. These slides are going to be uploaded, so feel free to take a look. But there's tons of things going on. And some of the exciting stuff that is in the pipeline, like deduplication for large objects and things like adding support for distributed tracing, which is currently there, but not there in terms of being able to use in production. So this is exciting work that is going to happen in Tentacle and continue to build in U and future releases. All right, let's move to block now, RBD. The focus areas are very clear here, simple disaster recovery. So there's been snapshot mirroring support in RBD for a long time, but now we are adding support for consistency groups. There is also work going on in the live migration direction in terms of being able to import an image from one cluster to another Ceph cluster. And finally, there are things that have been added in Raiders like upmap rebalancer and crush MSR. MSR is another presentation that we heard just after this. Those things are lacking in the kernel side of things, so support for them are being added in the kernel in Tentacle. NVMeOF, so we have NVMeOF support in Ceph since the Squid, and we are making it more and more production ready by adding HA support, adding ability for multiple gateway groups. So we are going to support up to 4 gateway groups and 8 gateways in each group, so that's 32. There is work going on in the security direction of things by means of inbound authentication and stuff like that, and scalability, of course. And as I said, there is focus on usability in each component. So there's going to be more dashboard support for this. There's going to be more alerting, and of course, we continue to add more testing support for this because this is a newer feature. So we want to make sure that we're covering all this. All right, next it's Ceph. So the main piece of work going on in Ceph is about case-insensitive directory trees or interoperability with Samba. This is something that the team is very excited about and working hard towards. There is a bunch of work going on in terms of making storing sub-volume metadata in Ceph SQLite, which has been around for a while, and that's going to help with better handling of all clusters. And like I said, more monitoring and alerting and stuff going on in each direction. So you're even for metadata having workloads, there's going to be more easy ways to monitor such FS clusters. And we continue to stabilize FS script and improve our SMB and NFS integrations. All right, now coming to dashboard. So tons of work going on in this area. So if you're a dashboard user, you should be very happy. There's going to be multi-cluster support. It's something that's been on the wish list for a lot of users for a long time. Like I said, NVMe, multi-site, SMB are going to get more and more features. Day 1, day 2 operations in the dashboard itself. So if you prefer to use the dashboard, you can choose to do that. Beyond that, there is going to be UI UX improvements as well, and this continuous improvement in terms of improving the backend and making it more and more efficient so that it scales better at larger scale. Similar story for Ceph ADM. Ceph ADM is becoming more and more code hardened, improving performance at scale, and adding more and more support for all the extra protocols that are getting added in Ceph. So there's more work going on in the SMB orchestration side of things. The simplified OSD management that's also being worked upon. There's going to be a presentation later in the day by Ernesto talking about some of these features. So I don't want to go into too much details and steal his time here. So I'll leave it at that. And the last one is important, automatic certificates. That's something that users have been wanting. So there's work going on in that direction as well. Similar story. So we want to build our ecosystem around Ceph. So Rook for users wanting to use Ceph in Kubernetes environments, Rook is the orchestrator. So there's more and more work going on in that direction as well. Mirroring of Rails namespace support has been added. And the second one is pretty cool. So OSD migration to enable encryption as a day 2 operation. This is an ability that has been added into Rook recently. And this is something that can be extrapolated to other use cases as well. So this is an exciting piece of work from the Rook team. Similar story for CSI. So there's been work in the direction of mirroring of volume groups and space efficient replication for clone volumes. Tons of stuff going on in the CSI area as well. So if you're interested in this use case, feel free to take a look and keep yourself up to date on the latest. Again, telemetry, we love telemetry. We want all of you to opt in. If you haven't, there's going to be a dedicated talk. So again, I don't want to spend too much time in the interest of me going over time with all the logistical stuff. So I'm going to leave it at that. But the exciting thing is that we're trying to get more and more insight into how users are using Ceph. And the stuff that we're adding, like stretch cluster visibility, multi-site visibility is basically in that direction. Docs continues to be a priority. We're investing heavily in docs from the foundation point of view. There's now a beginners guide that you can look at. It has been actually developed with a lot of time and effort and love from the community members, and of course, Jack Dover, who's been our docs lead for a while. So take a look, and if you have further suggestions and refinements, please feel free to suggest them. There's tons of other things going on in terms of things like the Ceph quarterly, and Zach continues to be a point of contact for things that need to be further improved in docs. So feel free to reach out to him with any docs concerns you may have.
Point this way, maybe. The dongle's right here.
Is Truthology build CI. Without this, our developers won't be able to build code. And there's tons of work going on in terms of making our developer experience more efficient and making our developers more productive. So Ceph Dev Stack is one project in that direction in terms of running Truthology integration tests using local containers as test build instead of relying on our Sepia infrastructure that we have. We have Palpito NG. Sure if you have questions about it, but this is essentially another way of making life easier for developers to be able to run tests, kill tests, and like have more visibility into what the tests are doing and things like that. And finally, this is another area that I would actually want more and more community members to come support us. We've been trying to make a bunch of improvements in terms of build and making builds more efficient and using things like caching and using things like container-based environments for isolation and stuff. But we could use more community support to muster up resources. If there are people who have expertise in this area, come help us. So there's infrastructure meetings and the Sepia channel where we're actively discussing issues, problems, and ugly things. So if you have ideas to help, we would welcome you. But this is already in the pipeline, so this is all good stuff. Can you bless me?
Here, point here.
All right, so this is the, I think, the last slides I have. Like testing, functional testing, regression testing, performance testing is also important for us, and we continue to invest in this. So therefore, we're making tons of improvements in CBT. CBT, for those who do not know, is Ceph benchmarking tool. It's been default way for developers to evaluate Ceph performance for all kinds of workloads. And in Tentacle, and it's not tied to release essentially, but in this year we have a bunch of extra hands to help with CBT beyond Mark Nelson, who's been the the initial maintainer of the project. But we're going to make CBT a tool that can be used not just by developers, but also by users to run it in their production environments and gather baselines and things like that very easily so that, they have similar experience of what developers have from baseline point of view. So I don't want to go to the details. Feel free to read the stuff in here. And if you have questions, we have forms weekly, come with questions, and, we'd be more than happy to answer that. And finally, there's also a bunch of unit testing improvement and stuff like the OMAP listing performance that I said. There's also stuff that's getting added in terms of OMAP testing improvements, which were in there earlier. All right, with that, we've done to the end. If you have any questions, feel free to grab me, during breaks and everything. But thank you for listening. Looking forward to Tentacle and you using it. Thank you.